Good afternoon, everybody. This is AKwx with the National Weather Service with Alaska statewide weather for August 26, 2020. We have a couple options for you for further refine your weather search. A 1-800 number on telephone takes you through a menu system, and on the web at weather.gov/Alaska, take off Alaska, put in Fairbanks, Anchorage, or Juneau, and that again helps you further refine your search. Lastly, if you want to give us any questions, comments, or suggestions, please email us at the email listed at the bottom of the page there. For the hazards map, we currently do not have any hazards out, watch, warning, or advisories, but please, if you go out, please check the weather.gov/Alaska webpage for any updates to this. There are some marine watches and warnings out for a few locations in the marine environment, but otherwise there's nothing on the land areas at this time. I wanted to show the precipitation estimate from yesterday ending at 4 a.m. this morning. Since we've had all this wet weather, we have had about a quarter to a half inch here in Anchorage, in much of the Anchorage Bowl and up into the Matsu Valley, but also there's pretty good rainfall in the Panhandle up along the northeast Gulf Coast, with areas of a half to 2 inches in some areas. Also in the eastern interior, they've had some pretty good rain, quarter to a half inch along the border there. Otherwise, less than a quarter inch out through southwest and much of the western mainland and down through the Alaska Peninsula. For the forecast ending at 4 a.m. tomorrow morning, there's going to be some more rainfall. We got another system moving into the Gulf, but right now it looks like much of the Kenai Peninsula up into the Matsu Valley, anywhere between a quarter and 75 hundredths of an inch. Across much of the region, Prince William Sound might get a little bit higher amounts, but otherwise some pretty good rainfall even into the interior, with the Alaska Range getting about an inch or so, and then north of Fairbanks there, another area of half inch or more. Also the Panhandle gets into it as well, but otherwise widespread rain throughout the state of Alaska forecast for today. I also wanted to show the drought monitor that was last updated on August 20th. We still are in a D1 drought for portions of south central and down through the northern Alaska Peninsula into Kodiak Island. Kodiak Island has been very dry since July 1st, but this will be updated here shortly, but otherwise still in a D1 drought across portions of the southern mainland. For the satellite image this morning, you can see that low pressure system with the associated trough moving towards the southwest Bristol Bay area. Also another weakening low in the Gulf, spreading some light rainfall through the Panhandle up in the northeast Gulf Coast. Otherwise, easterly waves coming across the interior, bringing some clouds and precipitation up through much of the interior up into the Brooks Range as well. What does this look like on the surface map? You can see that 996 millibar low out there near the western Aleutians, triple point there with a warm front, cold front. Out ahead of that is a 1025 millibar high, and again the low pressure system moving towards Bristol Bay, spreading some light rain showers. I did see some moderate rain showers across portions of the interior around that thermal low. 1,005 millibars there. Otherwise, weakening low in the Gulf, spreading some light rain showers, a little bit heavier in the Prince William Sound area. For tonight's weather, that low out there in the western Aleutians, 994 millibar low now, occluded front as well, with moderate to heavy rainfall out there around the thermal low in the interior, some fog associated with that across the portions of the lowland areas. Otherwise, fog along the north slope, and that low in the near Bristol Bay transitions into the Gulf, 1,002 millibar there. Some light rainfall around that system, moderate rain into Kodiak. For Thursday's weather, looking at strengthening system associated with that low in the Gulf, 996 millibar low with an occluded front, bringing some moderate rain into the Panhandle and Northern Gulf, otherwise thermal low, bringing some thunderstorm activity across the interior again for Thursday. That low out there in the Aleutians continues to bring some moderate to heavy rain in that region of the state. And lastly for Friday, that occluded front continues to move eastward. Moderate rain in through much of the Aleutians. Thermal activity across the interior, some thunderstorms again for Friday afternoon. And a weakening low in the Gulf, bringing some lingering showers across the Panhandle. Low temperatures for Thursday morning. Kaktovik 38, 36. At Utqiagvik 30s and 40s across the North Slope. Otherwise, Arctic Village 42, Fort Yukon 47, Eagle 43, 46 at Fairbanks, 45 at Dehne, 47 in Galena, 45 in McGrath, 40s down through the southwest and western mainland, and even out into the Seward Peninsula, Nome 48, Savunga 45, 40s and maybe even a 50 down through the Bristol Bay region into the Alaska Peninsula and Aleutians, with King Salmon 41, Dillingham 45, Cold Bay 49, and Dutch Harbor 48, Yakutat 48, Haines 50, Juneau 49, Sitka 50, 49 in Ketchikan. High temperatures Thursday afternoon, 40s along the North Slope with Kaktovik 43, Utqiagvik 40, Point Hope 52, Arctic Village 56, Anaktuvik Pass 52, Fort Yukon 61, Eagle 63, 64 in Tanana, 65 in Fairbanks. Otherwise 60s and upper 50s down through the southwest with 61 in King Salmon, 60 in Dillingham, 50s through the Alaska Peninsula into the Aleutians with 54 Cold Bay, 54 at Dutch Harbor, Savunga 49, Shemya 51, Kodiak 62, Anchorage 60, Yakutat 56, Haines 57, Juneau 57, Sitka 59, 60 in Ketchikan. For low temperatures Friday morning, we'll be looking at 30s across the North Slope with 37 in Kaktovik, 35 in Utqiagvik, 39 in Arctic Village, 39 in Anaktuvik Pass, 43 in Fort Yukon, 40 in Eagle, and then 44 in Bettles, and then Ambler 44, 40s through much of the southwest and then through the Yukon River Valley with 46 in Fairbanks, 43 in Northway, 42 in Tanana, 46 in Galena, McGrath 44, 46 in Aniak, 47 in Bethel, 40s down through the Bristol Bay region and Alaska Peninsula, and as well as the Aleutians with 44 in King Salmon, 45 in Dillingham, Cold Bay 47, 49 Dutch Harbor, Shemya 48, St. Paul 49, Savunga 44, 48 in Anchorage, 47 in Yakutat, 50 in Haines, 48 in state capital Juneau, Sitka 51, and 51 in Ketchikan, otherwise 50s, maybe upper 40s through much of the Panhandle. Lastly, for Friday's high temperature, upper 30s to low 40s across the North Slope with 44 Kaktovik, Dead Horse 43, 39 in Utqiagvik, 55 in Arctic Village, 50 in Anaktuvik Pass, 62 in Fort Yukon, 60s down through much of the Yukon Basin in southwest with 63 in Tanana, 62 in Fairbanks, 63 in Galena, and 63 in Anchorage, 64 in King Salmon, 50s down through the Alaska Peninsula and Aleutians, and upper 50s and 60s in the Panhandle with 52 in Juneau.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Welcome to Aviation Weather, taking a look at the flying weather for Thursday morning. IFR conditions along the Arctic coast and into the North Slope with marginal conditions down through the Brooks Range and into the Kuskokwim Mountains. IFR conditions again showing up in much of the eastern Bering and across the central and western Aleutians. Also, with a low pressure system coming into the Gulf, we will see some IFR conditions in the Panhandle, and that spreads into the mountains of the southern mainland. For Thursday afternoon, some improving conditions along the North Slope with marginal conditions there, and IFR conditions through the northern Bering and again down through the western and central Aleutians. Some improving conditions in the Panhandle, some VFR conditions there, and that areas of marginal conditions from over portions of the Panhandle and into the northern Gulf. For Thursday afternoon, I do want to mention some afternoon thunderstorms across much of the interior, and that spreads into the mountainous areas of the Alaska Range. Moving on to Friday morning, IFR conditions again showing up around weak onshore flow, marine stratus there, and that spreads into the North Slope from the Arctic coast, and then IFR conditions down through the YK Delta and into Bristol Bay region, and also IFR conditions through the western Aleutians and into the central Aleutians, and again some marginal conditions through the Panhandle and St. Elias Mountains and Kenai Mountains and southern Alaska Range. For Friday afternoon, again watch for some afternoon developments, especially across the central interior, but much less developments as compared to Thursday afternoon. IFR conditions again shows up along the coastal regions of the Arctic coast, otherwise marginal conditions in the North Slope and through the YK Delta, IFR conditions through central and western Aleutians, and marginal conditions through the Panhandle. For past conditions on Thursday, Anaktuvik Pass, IFR to marginal. Adigan, marginal the entire day. Lake Clark, IFR to marginal with some areas of afternoon thunderstorms. Rainy, IFR to VFR with, I did not go for thunderstorms there. Windy, IFR to VFR with some afternoon thunderstorms. Isabel, much the same. And Mentasta went for VFR, but watch for a few isolated thunderstorms there. And Tenedo, much the same with marginal to VFR with some isolated thunderstorms. Portage, IFR, improving to marginal. Chokut, much the same, IFR, improving to marginal. Freezing levels, 6,000 foot freezing level cuts across the southern mainland. You have to go off the Arctic coast and along the St. Elias Mountains to find the surface freezing level. Otherwise, 8,000 foot freezing level cuts across the central and southern end of the Bering Sea. Icing on Thursday went around 10,000 feet and above along the coastal areas and into the Panhandle, with some areas of considerable moderate across the northern Gulf and into the Alaska Peninsula. And over on the western side, the southwest and into Bering, Bristol Bay region went for 8,000 foot and above there. Jet stream on Thursday around a low pressure system just east of Kodiak. 140 knot winds south of the Alaska Peninsula, otherwise 50 to 65 knots from the southwesterly direction coming into the northern Gulf and across the Panhandle. Winds generally from a southeasterly direction across much of the mainland with 40 knots in the central interior, and again a low pressure system coming into the western Aleutians with counterclockwise flow there. 9,000 foot winds, thermal low across the interior, pretty much light and variable, and low pressure systems in the Gulf region, 30 knots coming across the Alaska Peninsula from the northern direction. 3,000 foot winds, again Thursday, counterclockwise flow around the lows in the Gulf, and 20 to 35 knots there in the northern part of the mainland, and that low pressure system coming into the western Aleutians. Turbulence went for below 3,000 feet there on the western Brooks Range, below 2,000 feet in the western Aleutians, and below 3,000 feet along the north Gulf Coast and into the Panhandle with areas of considerable moderate.
Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snider, and joining me once again is Eric Stevens from GINA, the Geographic Information Network of Alaska, based up at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. Eric, welcome back to the program.
Hey, I'm glad to be here.
And once again, you brought some wonderful satellite pictures to show us and do a little show and tell about. It's just amazing. I can get lost in satellite pictures all day. What did you bring today?
Right. Well, weather satellites, what are they good for? Yeah. Of course, there's the pretty pictures that they bring us. You know, we've got a picture here from April of 2012. Okay. The Sumi NPP satellite, it's what they call a polar orbiter, which means it covers Alaska because we're near the pole. Beautiful image. You can see a storm off of southeast Alaska, the sea ice along the Bering Sea up into the Arctic. A really nice picture, and this is important because it allows a forecaster to see where the storms are, where the ice is, where the clear areas are. You need to know where the weather is now if you're going to forecast it into the future. Exactly. So satellites give us these good pictures. This is called surveillance of the weather. And you know, that same satellite also has another picture from a little more recently, August of 2014, Tropical Storm Iselle bearing down on the Hawaiian Islands. Okay. Hawaii doesn't get hit by a whole lot of tropical storms or hurricanes. Sometimes it does. And here's a picture from the same satellite, the Sumi NPP Polar Orbiter. It shows Tropical Storm Iselle approaching the Hawaiian Islands from the southeast. You can see the storm swirling away there, and then there's the Hawaiian Islands. This is a tropical storm, not quite as strong as a hurricane because we don't see the eye wall in there. This is still a serious weather system. And all of this information comes just from that satellite picture. It's so much information, and it's wonderful to look at. You see the beauty and the awe of nature right there depicted in that weather satellite. We call it a polar orbiter because the satellite flies high over the globe. Maybe we could look here at we happen to bring the planet Earth with us. This is our satellite. A polar orbit flies really close to the Earth, maybe 800 kilometers over the Earth, and goes up over the pole and then back down, and then the Earth spins under the satellite as it goes by. That's in contrast to the geostationary birds, which are much further out. And they don't view Alaska quite as well. So we love those polar orbiter satellites here in Alaska.
So when we're a lot closer, we get much better details and imagery and an idea of a better maybe position of what's going on when it's passing right over Alaska or right over Hawaii.
Yes, exactly right. The polar orbiter gives such a good view of places like Alaska. And because it's close to the planet, there's another aspect of satellites in the polar orbit that is helpful for weather forecasting. It's an aspect that's maybe not as immediately obvious as the pretty pictures that we see. And that is the capacity for the satellite to produce what's called a sounding. That is finding the vertical profile of temperature and moisture in the atmosphere. We've all heard of weather balloons. Weather balloons are launched here in Alaska twice a day at a number of airports, everywhere from Barrow to St. Paul Island to Kodiak, Anchorage and Fairbanks, Yakutat, a number of places. Launch these balloons, and we've got a picture of a balloon being launched at an airport, and the balloon goes up. It's pulling a little package, an instrument package with it that reports temperature, pressure, humidity data back, and we use that information to help feed what are called numerical weather prediction models.
The models.
The models, right. It's a mouthful, so we just call it the models. And these computer simulations, these models are computer programs that simulate the motion of the atmosphere. Well, how does a model know what the future will be like? You have to tell the model what things are like now. And you give it all kinds of information, including information from these satellite sounders. Very important. Just how important are they? We have a recent, comparatively recent study that really brings home, and this is Superstorm Sandy. We have a track image here of the track of Hurricane Sandy. Was down in the Caribbean around Cuba, and then it moved north over the ocean, offshore of the eastern seaboard, and then at the last minute, Sandy made what's called the left hook. It turned hard to the left and slammed into New Jersey. Was a major problem for the mid-Atlantic states, a calamity. It fused with another weather system and became known, this is not an official title, but Superstorm Sandy. It was quite the weather event. Well, the modelers, after the event, there's a group of modelers in Europe. They have a very good model, a frustratingly good model if you're the Americans trying to pursue their excellence. They reran their model afterwards in what's called a data denial study, where they kept everything the same. So this is 6 months after Sandy, but they went back, they reran the same model, they fed the model the same initial conditions, that is telling the model, okay, here's where we think Sandy is, down near Cuba in the Caribbean. Everything was the same as it was in the real forecast, except they didn't let the model know.
No satellite data.
No satellite data.
Okay.
So we're going to put that over here. No satellite data for you. The resulting forecast 5 days out, back when the real Sandy was happening and the model had the satellite data, the forecast was pretty good. We've got a graphic here on the left side. We show the forecast of where Sandy would be, and that's the red bullseye on the left. It's just south of where it actually wound up hitting. Not a bad forecast from this computer simulation, 120 hours out. On the right, you see the same model, but it didn't have the satellite data to help it understand things. And the storm is way offshore. It misses. The forecast is more accurate when the model has the satellite data. So that's the idea today we want to convey is weather satellites. They're important because they show us the pictures of where storms are. We see good examples of this. Yeah, the surveillance right now, it's great to look at those pictures. And in addition, behind the scenes, maybe not immediately obvious, but the models have to have that satellite data for them to be good forecasts. And then a meteorologist uses that information to help everyone with the forecast of where the storms will be in the future.
That is fascinating information that we can look at, see where things have been, because you can't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. That's that old adage there. But seeing that satellites are actually helping us move forward in the weather information system is pretty amazing stuff.
You bet.
And if you want to check out Eric's satellite images that he's been talking about, whether that's something from today or last week or even much further back in Alaska history, you can easily do that yourself. Go to www.gina.alaska.edu and you can find those images there. Eric, thanks so much for joining us once again. And again, we will join you hopefully again soon for another edition of Alaska Weather Facts, where you'll tell us more really cool information about the satellites over our heads in Alaska. Thanks for joining us tonight, and we'll see you next time.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Good afternoon, everybody. Let's take a look at the sea ice analysis for today. Lower concentrations of ice continue to be analyzed by our ice desks today, with ice pack slowly retreating northward. They did tell me that with northeasterly flow developing, that ice pack will slowly retreat southward, but will be broken up as it moves south. Marine forecast for Thursday: southeast inside waters, winds generally from the south 10 to 20 seas as high as 4 feet over the Clarence Strait. Otherwise, outside waters, winds generally from the southeast at 25 seas as high as 8 feet, with gusts of 35 up there in the northeast Gulf Coast. Likely small craft advisory conditions. For southeast Friday's forecast, inside waters, winds variable 15 to 35, seas as high as 7 feet. Outside waters, winds generally from a northwest or westerly direction, 15 to 35, seas as high as 17 feet. Small craft advisory or gale warnings out for Friday. Thursday's marine forecast for south central Pennsylvania Sound, winds generally from the east at 20, seas as high as 4 feet. For the Gulf region, winds generally from the east at 25, seas as high as 7 feet. And for Cook Inlet, winds generally from the north at 20 to 25, seas as high as 7 feet. And for Friday's marine forecast, south central for Prince William Sound, winds generally from the west at 10 and seas as high as 2 feet. Gulf region, winds generally from the west at 15 to 20, seas as high as 7 feet. And for the Cook Inlet, winds generally from the west at 10 to 15, seas as high as 3 feet in the Kamishak Bay region. For Thursday's forecast for Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, sorry about the graphics, but the numbers are correct. Around Kodiak Island, winds generally from the northeast at 25, seas as high as 7 feet in the Shelkoff Strait region. North side or south side of the peninsula, winds generally from the west at 25, seas as high as 6 feet, and north side of the peninsula, winds generally from the northeast at 15 to 20, seas as high as 6 feet. For Friday, around Kodiak Island, winds generally from the southwest at 10 to 20, with seas as high as 5 feet just to the east of Kodiak Island there. And south side of the peninsula, winds generally from the east at 30, seas as high as 6 feet. And for the north side of the peninsula, winds generally from a variable direction 10 to 20, seas as high as 3 feet. For Aleutian Chain, Thursday, winds generally from the southeast at 15 to 35 over there near Kiska and Shimia, seas as high as 8 feet. Gale warnings likely for Thursday. And for Friday, loose and chain, winds generally from a variable direction, 25 to 35, seas as high as 11 feet there north of Atka and Nikolsky. Gale warnings likely for Friday for that area, as well as south of Unalaska with winds from the east at 30, seas as high as 11 feet. West Coast, Thursday, winds generally from the north at 15 or 10 to 20, with seas as high as 4 feet. And for Friday, winds generally from the north at 15 to 25, seas as high as 7 feet near the Pribs. And in Norton Sound, winds generally from the east at 15, seas as high as 3 feet. For the Arctic coast, just off the Arctic coast there in the Beaufort Sea, looking at winds generally from the east at 25, seas as high as 6 feet. And off the northwest coast, winds generally from the east at 25 to 35, 25 to 30, seas as high as 7 feet. And down through the Bering Strait, winds from the north at 20, seas as high as 6 feet. And for Friday, Arctic coast region, winds generally from the east at 25, seas as high as 6 feet. Just near Ukqiagvik, winds from the east at 20, seas as high as 5 feet. Northwest coast, waters will be generally from the east at 25, seas as high as 8 feet. And down through the Bering Strait, winds from the north at 15 to 20, with seas as high as 5 feet. For tonight's weather, occluded front in the western Aleutians, moderate to heavy rain out there. Otherwise, fog showing up in the interior, low valley locations. Otherwise, 1,002 millibar low bringing into the Gulf, bringing moderate to heavy rain through the northern Gulf region and into Kodiak Island. And for Thursday afternoon, thunderstorms through the interior, weakening low in the Gulf.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.